Hello, the topic for today is the power of exact direct midpoint structures, and I'm going to illustrate this concept with two charts. The birth chart of two musicians, John Coltrane, saxophone player, and composer Antonio Vivaldi. Let's start with Vivaldi's natal chart. So here's Vivaldi's natal chart. He was reported as being born at sunset, so we don't have an exact to the minute time. Here's the sun approximately setting, so he was born around this time, and I'm going to show you some mind-boggling things that can happen with direct midpoint structures. I'm in the Series 1.3 software, and I'm looking at his natal chart. I've already selected some reports for him, so they're listed over here already, and I'm going to click on midpoints, and what this shows me is that Venus is directly conjunct between Neptune and Pluto with no orb, 0 degrees, 0 minutes. So this is called a midpoint structure, and it's telling me that Venus is directly in between Neptune and Pluto. And we can see that in the chart. Here's Venus, here's Pluto, here's Neptune. You can't tell by visually looking at it, but it happens that Venus is directly in between Neptune and Pluto. Now I'm going to click over here for another wheel style that has an aspect grid, and we'll see that the angle of Venus to Neptune is 70 degrees 54 minutes. And the angle of Venus to Pluto is also 70 degrees 54 minutes. So Venus to Pluto, 70 degrees 54 minutes. Venus to Neptune, 70 degrees 54 minutes, which is 1/5 of a circle. And it tells me that they're quintile with a 1 degree 6 minute orb, because the exact quintile is 72 degrees. So they're within about a degree orb of being quintile. The quintile, it makes one very creative. So it makes sense. We expect creativity. I also expect 11ths of a circle, like a 1/11th or a 2/11th, because these give dynamism. They give motion. They're very common in musicians. So what we're going to find out is that this Venus at Neptune-Pluto is vibrating as quintiles, right? We've already seen that. Venus is quintile Pluto, Venus is quintile Neptune. So this Venus is directly in between Neptune and Pluto, vibrating in that creative quintile vibration. And also Saturn is in between Venus and Pluto. Not exact, but it's there. If I look at the midpoints, I will see that Saturn is conjunct Venus-Pluto with a very small orb, 15 minutes. It's not completely exact, but it's very small orb. So actually what's happening is, going back to the chart, Venus is quintile Pluto, Venus is quintile Neptune, exactly in the middle, and Saturn is 1/10 to Pluto, because it's half of this quintile, and 1/10 to Venus right in between. So it's a 4-planet, highly creative, with Saturn highly focused, serious effort at a creative enterprise. But why is it music? Why isn't it some other kind of creativity? Well, here is the mind-boggling thing. This is going to sound unbelievable if you're not used to how harmonic astrology, vibrational astrology works. But what happens is this Venus to Pluto and Venus to Neptune are simultaneously vibrating 5 creativity and 11 motion, the 11 dynamism. So it is very strongly inclined to music. And this is the chart of one of the most extraordinary composers of all time. Vivaldi's music is divinely beautiful. What gives him that talent? Well, I think this Venus at Neptune-Pluto and Saturn at Venus-Pluto is part of it. So it gives the creativity. Now watch this. First I'm going to show you his 5th harmonic chart. In the 5th harmonic chart, the quintiles and biquintiles become conjunct. So there's the Venus, Neptune, Pluto, and they're opposite Saturn, because Saturn is 1/10. I'm in the Series 1.3 software. It even tells me Saturn is 1/10. Might be hard to read on the small thing we're capturing for the video, but Saturn is 1/10 Pluto, 1/10 Venus. Now here's the mind-boggling part. That I've already shown you. Now I'm going to show you the 11th harmonic. This is the extraordinary thing that can happen with an exact midpoint structure. Venus, Neptune, and Pluto are also sextile in the 11th harmonic chart. I'm in the 11th harmonic chart, and they're exactly sextile. Neptune 9 degrees 18 minutes, Venus 9 degrees 17 minutes, Pluto 9 degrees 18 minutes. They're all exactly, within a minute sextile to each other, and they're sextile the Sun, very exact with the Sun-Pluto opposition. So the Sun is brought into it. Now you may say, I'm lost, I don't get this. Okay, let me show you what's happening. The Venus-Neptune, it tells me here, it's probably hard for you to read, is 13/66. Venus to Pluto is also 13/66 of a circle. This is, strange stuff to most astrologers. But the idea is that there are vibrations, intricate, detailed, complex, beautiful tapestry of vibrations in the universe that we can detect through this analysis. Now let me show you how this works. 13/66, if I bring up a calculator and I take 13 divided by 66 and multiply by 360, it's 70.9 degrees. If I convert that to degrees and minutes, it's 70 degrees 54 minutes. So, remember, when we looked at his natal chart, going back to Vivaldi's natal chart, and I pull up this wheel with the aspect grid, Venus to Pluto, 70 degrees 54 minutes, Venus to Neptune, 70 degrees 54 minutes. It ends up that 70 degrees 54 minutes is a very special angle because it is a 66th harmonic, an 11 times 6 harmonic, so therefore in the 11th harmonic chart, here it is, they become sextiles in the 11 chart. Smooth, dynamic flow of energy with the Sun. So it's lighted, we light it up with the power of the Sun, this smooth because it's sextiles and trines, flow of energy, and it's creative because it's a quintile at the same time. So vibrational astrology is what I call this. It's an advanced form of harmonic astrology. Vibrational astrology gives you a detailed analysis of these vibrations. And the vibrational patterns are very clear, very specific, and very sophisticated. So the Venus, Neptune, Pluto is vibrating to 5 of creativity and dynamic flow at the same time, pulling in additional planets. Here we see it has the Sun also involved with it. Also, I want to mention that Neptune and Pluto have a very strong relationship to each other because astronomically their orbits are harmonically related to each other. This is something that doesn't come up much in astrology, but astronomers in general are very aware of this, that there's an orbital resonance between the orbits of Neptune and Pluto. So they have a special affinity to each other. And here, the Venus is vibrating in the 11 times 6 and in the 5th harmonic, because it's quintile to them, simultaneously giving the extraordinary power, and it is an exact, to the minute, sextiles in this 11th harmonic chart. Phenomenal pattern, extraordinary pattern, extremely unusual. He was born exactly when this pattern is exact. I'm guessing he really was born very, very close to sunset, which is what's stated, in some reference material was stated somewhere that when he was born that it was sunset. And I believe it was very, very close to sunset because at this time we have this extraordinary pattern. So the bottom line is that when you have direct midpoint structures that are exact, direct midpoint structure means a planet right in between two others, either conjunct or opposition, you can get incredibly powerful resonances. I'll show you another example. John Coltrane. Here's John Coltrane's birth chart. His time is from a birth certificate, although it's on the hour, but it is from birth certificate, 5 p.m. So here's John Coltrane, one of the most extraordinary jazz saxophone players of all time, also unbelievably creative. Where does it come from? What could give him the capacity to move jazz saxophone playing to another level? What is it? We will see. I'll click on his midpoints. He also has a midpoint structure, in this case with a 1-minute orb, almost exact. Mercury is opposite the Mars-Jupiter. So let's go back to the chart and look at it. Well, Mercury is sesquiquadrat Jupiter. and it's sesquiquadrat Mars, and Mars is square Jupiter. So Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, making hard aspects with Mercury exactly with a, just 1 minute orb right in between them, would indicate a desire to understand large topics. He'd be good at philosophy, economics, politics, understanding general concepts very, very well. Does not seem to have anything to do with music specifically. But what will happen, we'll see the same thing that we saw in Vivaldi's chart, that this is hard aspects, but it's simultaneously another aspect, and we'll see it in his fifth harmonic chart. So we look at John Coltrane's, or it's 25th harmonic chart, the 5 times 5. This is the 25th harmonic chart. 25, of course, equals 5 times 5. The 25th harmonic chart is a chart of super creativity, and we see a grand trine. Mercury, Mars, Jupiter. So that Mercury, Mars, Jupiter are simultaneously hard aspects and trines in the 25th harmonic chart. And it tells me here that the Mercury trine Mars is 28/75. I can pull up the calculator and do 28 divided by 75 times 360, and it tells me that's 134 degrees and 134.4 degrees, which is 134 degrees 24 minutes. Another special angle. So 134 degrees 24 minutes is a 28/75 and a sesquiquadrat. Let's go back to his natal chart. The distance of Mercury to Jupiter. Well, I'll pull up this other wheel style, and it will show me in the aspect grid Mercury to Mars, 134 degrees 24 minutes. Mercury to Jupiter, 134 degrees 21 minutes. So this one has a 3-minute orb. The Mercury-Jupiter, the Mercury-Mars is exact. So they are sesquiquadrat, which I can see in this wheel style here. The two sesquiquadrats, this hard thing means sesquiquadrat, 3/8 of a circle, or 135 degrees. 135 degrees, it's within orb, because it's 134 degrees 24 minutes. It's with less than a 1 degree orb, only a slightly more than half a degree orb, but it is also a 28/75, which normally astrologers would think is ridiculously unimportant, but in vibrational astrology, it means it's a grand trine in the super creative fifth harmonic. So what does this tell us? It tells us that John Coltrane has an extraordinarily gifted creative intellect. Now this doesn't say anything about music, but what I conclude from looking at this is that he is not just a musician, he's an extraordinarily creative thinker of broad ideas and philosophy. That's what I got out of this. So then, after looking at this, I did a little biographical research, and to give you an idea, here's a note from a friend of his, David Amram, had written in 1975, and I'll read this from this website. This fellow, David Amram, writes, "I remember talking about Einstein with John Coltrane while we were having an egg cream at the drugstore in St. Mark's Place and 2nd Avenue. Actually, he was talking about numbers and their relationship to music, how intervals affected certain kinds of chords, and how they could be used to create a different order in music. He brought up the theory of relativity. To him, it meant that many things already existing had a relationship in music, and it was up to the musician to discover these relationships and express them musically." So, Coltrane is thinking about Pythagorean ideas of numbers and harmonies and relationships, theory of relativity. So big concepts that he's studying and relating to music. He's an extraordinary creative and brilliant thinker. to continue what this fellow David Amram writes here, I saw Coltrane for the last time in March 1967 at the health food store on Broadway and 57th Street. We picked up the same subject of relativity almost exactly where we broke off our previous conversation. More than anything else, I remember him saying the universe is expanding. So Coltrane, on other websites I read that he read Aristotle, he read Plato. He pursued these things. He had a strong philosophical, intellectual interest, took a great interest in latest developments in physics, felt that the vibrations of music was strongly related to this. This is Mercury, Mars, Jupiter. A genius, creative mind at a very special angle, 134 degrees, 24 minutes. So what we're seeing is very special patterns, direct midpoint structures with almost no orb in two extraordinary people. So in extraordinary people, you will see extraordinary patterns that reflect the qualities that they have. Now, I realize that for most of you watching this video, all of this sounds incredibly wild and beyond the beyond, but this is the world of vibrational astrology, where we analyze these vibrational relationships, these different waveforms that are created by the distance between planets. And typically in vibrational astrology, we put much more emphasis on these vibrational patterns than we do on houses and signs and rulerships and many of the other things. Okay, so I hope that helped you gain some appreciation for this concept that when you have a direct midpoint structure, and it's nearly exact, and most charts don't have any, but if it should happen, that those angles that are the same, in other words, going back to Coltrane's chart, that Mercury exactly between Mars and Jupiter means the angle of Mercury to Jupiter is the same as Mercury to Mars. Those two angles being the same are vibrating at the same frequency, and whatever that frequency is going to have a huge impact on the quality of the person's life. And for Coltrane, it's a hard aspect, means it's a solid, powerful, important pattern, and it's also an extremely creative. And so he's got this powerful creative intellect. A pattern like that will do it. And we saw how in Vivaldi's chart, the Venus directly at Neptune, Pluto with no orb, simultaneously a 5 and 11 harmonic, which is helping him with his creative genius to be one of the greatest composers of all time. Okay, hope you found that interesting. Take care. God bless. Namaste.